Montrealer of a certain age, you might remember Dave Boxer, Doug Pringle, Charles P. Rodney Chandler, CFCF, CFOX, CKGM-FM. And if you do, even if you don't, take a trip back to the golden age of rock radio. The book is called Rockin' Radio, When the DJs and Rock Music Ruled the Airwaves. It is written by Montreal journalist Ian Howarth. Welcome.
Hi.
A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Because it brought back all these names that I hadn't thought about in years and years and years. But, you know, when you look back, when radio ruled, so there was no internet, we had no mobile phones. This was the most instant, sort of immediate thing that you could turn to, right? Radio.
Well, it was, and it produced the hits, and it produced them over and over again. The whole format for Top 40 was basically play the hits and then play them again. And so they delivered to a young audience, but it wasn't that way at first. It took really, I guess, the first legitimate Top 40 broadcaster or jock or DJ in Montreal was Dave Boxer. When CFCF took a chance, he had a 4-hour show. But most stations kind of dabbled in rock and roll.
Well, but it's interesting, you know, because demographically it came in with the baby boomers. I mean, this was something that was sort of created for the baby boomers and sort of grew old with the baby boomers as well. And it's interesting because Montreal was a real sort of microcosm of what was happening. I mean, I think there were the big jocks in the United States who created this. But the big rivalry, I think, was Dave Boxer and Buddy G.
And Buddy G.
And the two of them were up against each other.
Well, they ran opposite each other. Boxer had a couple of months running start on Buddy G, who's George Morris, a great commercial voice. George made his living after his stint at CKGM. But they ran basically from 6 till, say, 11 at nighttime. Although Dave started a little earlier, they still were running head-to-head. But when I interviewed George, he admitted that no matter how he tried, he never beat Dave Boxer in the rating.
But, you know, we can still hear, if people remember Buddy G, George Morris, we can still hear his voice. He does voiceover work.
That's right.
He's like Lotto Quebec, and he's got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice.
Oh, yes.
And it's interesting, then from Top 40, it sort of went into that underground sound. There's the book cover. Yeah. It went to that sort of the underground sound. And I think at the time it was CKGM-FM, but it was Doug Pringle who really brought that kind of radio into Montreal.
That's right. Doug Pringle went to make a pitch to station owner Jeff Sterling, Newfoundland-born Jeff Sterling, a charismatic character and a very interesting guy with Eastern mysticism leanings. And it seems that he was willing to give Pringle an opportunity to take CKGM-FM in a different direction. He pitched the idea of a so-called alternative FM format, and the next night, Sterling put him on the air for 4 hours.
Which is amazing when you think of it now, because, you know, radio and television, everything has become, you know, sort of more corporate and more state. The thought of some guy just walking up to a radio station owner and saying, hey, I can do this, and saying, okay, go on the air tomorrow, is incredible when you think back.
Actually, he wanted Pringle to go on the air that night, very late at night. Doug wasn't quite ready for that. So that's how keen Sterling was to do it. And that station has been on the air ever since, as shown FM. They rebranded themselves in 71.
It was. I mean, this is not to take away from radio right now, because I think there's still some wonderful people who are on the radio right now. But it really was magic then, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely magic. And it was a first thing. It was like everybody was in a moment in their lives, and with, of course, the British invasion, things were taking off, and radio and young people just ate it up.
And the music. There's a lot here. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Okay.